I fled him down the many labyrinth ways of my own mind, and in the midst of tears I hid from him, from those strong feet that followed after, but with unhurrying chase and unperturbed pace. Halts by me that footfall. Is it my gloom, after all, shade of his hand outstretched caressingly? Ah, fondest, blindest, weakest, I am he whom thou seekest. Now, a lot of us devotees have had some wonderful experiences of the play or Leela of Swami in our lives, little calling cards that remind us of his presence. And sometimes we have experienced difficult times that we don't understand but learn to practice faith in his decisions. There are also times in our lives when we can't or won't hear what Swami is saying to us. One year on a trip to India, my husband and I were fortunate to have an interview, just the two of us, with Swami. My husband wanted to sell a piece of personal property and retire for several years as a writer. Now, he was not a good money manager, and I often stepped into his affairs to suggest different ways of doing things. In this interview, my husband asked Swami at what price he should sell the property. Not if he should sell the property and become a writer, but at what price he should sell it for. 3 times he asked Swami at what price, and 3 times Swami told him, do not sell the property. In the middle somewhere, I started to interject my thoughts, and Swami said, no, you shouldn't say. So I had to keep quiet. Then Swami nodded to a certain figure my persistent husband had. Some other things, family things, were discussed before the end of the interview. Arriving home, my husband put the property up for sale at the price Swami had nodded to, and it never sold. I had to keep silent because that is what I was told to do, and the property was lost. What I gathered from this is, 1, we must be very, very honest about what we want and what we are doing with Swami, even in our prayers. Secondly, from my part, I had to trust in Swami and be faithful to that trust. Thirdly, always listen very, very carefully and study his words. Now, there are times when you want to do what you feel Swami is telling you to do, but cannot because of other people. You can't proceed. In such cases, Swami says, do the best you can and pray to him. Another more fun Leela in the 70s was a time when about 10 of us got together and formed a music group called Sharanam, which is surrender the ego at the lotus feet of the Lord. My house was filled with instruments, a small recording studio, and some musicians who stayed for weeks and even months putting together the album. Some standard bhajans with a Western approach were used, and some bhajans were written at the house, most notably that wonderful English bhajan, At Your Feet, Dear Lord, We Pray. That was written by Lenny Matlin. Now, over the months and into the summer, no one worked at a job so that we could get the project done, and towards the end of the activity, we were running out of money, and the phone was cut off. The last song to be recorded was my bhajan, Murali Krishna, with a flute accompaniment. But towards the end, the flutist was upset about something and took off before the flute was recorded. We spent several days looking for another flutist and could not find one. No musician seemed available. Then one morning I got up and there was a huge water leak coming from a broken pipe under the floor of the downstairs bathroom. Someone volunteered to run into town and use a payphone, and we frantically looked in the yellow pages for the closest plumber. Then someone picked up the phone and got a dial tone. We immediately called the plumber. Then the phone rang again. It was the phone company, and they said, "We're cutting this off immediately." The plumber came, a young man who was able to fix the pipe, and we pooled our money to pay him. He looked around and asked us what we were recording, and we told him what we were doing. Then he said he was also a musician, and we asked him what he played. And the plumber said, "I play the flute." Yes. Over the next few days, he put a beautiful flute obligato over the Murli Krishna, and thus we finished the album. Then Lenny wrapped up a tape in pink silk for Swami and left for India to offer Sharanam at his lotus feet. Lenny was there for several weeks at every darshan with a tape tucked inside his shirt, but he kept getting the back rows. There were a lot of celebrations going on and a lot of people at the time. Finally, one day, he got a seat on a front row corner, and Swami came by, smiled, and took the tape. Lenny was later to find out that that particular day was a celebration for music. A closing quote from Swami. After long searches here and there, in temples and churches, in earths and heavens, at last you come back, completing the cycle from where you started to your own soul, and find that he for whom you have been weeping and praying in churches and temples, on whom you have been looking as the mystery of all mysteries shrouded in the clouds, is the nearest of the near, is your own self. The reality of your life, your body, your soul. You are the light. The light is in you. You are the light. Jai Sai Ram.
Thank you so much, Mary Beth.